Hey everybody, Bonehead from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Theory Thursday. Today we are having a look at one of the most quintessential play styles of Blood Bowl. It's beyond a play style, it's beyond a tactic, it is simply a way of life for most Blood Bowl teams and most Blood Bowl games, to be honest with you. And that is the 2-1 grind. So every Thursday we get together and we have a look at a particular part of Blood Bowl, whether it's stats or strats. We take a bit of a deep dive and try to learn a bit more about the best tabletop game out there. So the 2-1 grind, we're going to look about what it is, when to use it, why to use it, and how you go about stopping it. So the 2-1 grind basically sums up the majority of games that end up going 2-1. And basically, to give a bit of a breakdown of it, they score first, you then have the rest of the first half. So it's all to do with the kickoff, essentially. You kick off to your opponent. You then force them to score with enough time for you to also score. The whole idea of this is that you go into the second half receiving the ball at the beginning of that second half and on an equal playing field. That kind of sums it up. Whether it's 0-0 at the half and you've got an opportunity to go 1-0, or whether you force them to score quickly, you've then spent your second half your second half of the first half scoring as well, and going in, and basically it's going to put you in a position where you are in control of the ball and you have to make it last. So you have to try and score on the last moment of the turns. And sadly, this happened to me last night playing against Ian's Dwarf Pirate team. He scored on turn 8 and then he scored on turn 16 and he ended up winning 2-1. He forced me to score early. I played like anything to try and defend. He then had to take a one-die blitz and a couple of dodges to get that 1-1 going into the half. Otherwise it would have been 1-all. And that's the other thing here, is it all depends on the kickoff result. If you are able to choose and you are playing a bashier team than your opponent, you can pen them in. And if you force them to score early, you then have control. You have the initiative for over a half. You get the opening blocks twice, and you get to control where the ball is and potentially how long you have the offense. And if you've got the ball in a pocket and you can exert that extra bash, you're going to cost your opponent players. Now, you guys know I am primarily an agility focused team, so the 2-1 grind is something that I have to face against with Skaven, with Slan, with Snotlings, with basically all the teams that I really like to play a lot. So defeating the 2-1 grind is very difficult. We'll talk through how best to defeat it and why I like playing it the other way around, but actually being able to understand the 2-1 grind is really important. Because if you are going up against a mid-range team and you are agility, whether you're going up against a bash team and you're mid-range or agility, you are going to be facing into this. So if you are a stronger team than your opponent, kick away. Kick the ball away at the start of the half. That means that they get first possession. You should get one possession in the first half, and then you will get possession at the beginning of the second half. And the whole point here is they go down and score first. You get 2 positions to score, once to draw or twice to win. It basically puts you in a position of strength. If you do not get the ball, then it's a very different matter. But if you're an agility team, receiving the ball early may seem fantastic. It may be like, sweet, I'll go down, score in 2 turns, then I'm up, and it forces them to try and do stuff. While that is true, there will be an element of playing into their hands. If you score in 2 or 3 turns, they are then going to have 8 turns, one half, and 5 turns in another half. 13 turns where they get to block first, essentially. And that is a huge amount, because what the plan is here for the 2-1 grind is if you're mid-range against mid-range, you kick away to them, you make them pay. You make them pay for every turn they spend not scoring. And then when you receive, the whole idea here is that you're up players. You're up players, and then you get to be up even more players, because even if you get the ball back on turn 6, you get to take those sweet opening blocks. Even if it's removing linemen, it means that when they deploy again at the second half, they're going to have to backfill those slots, and they're going to have less players in their backfield. That makes it easier for you to score and harder for them to break your serve. So to summarise the 2-1 grind, how does it work? If you are going to aim to win that 2-1 grind, you have to be able to apply damage. That's why Bash teams love this. Dwarves are the quintessential 2-1 grind team. They will kick the ball away and they will just take blocks. They probably won't even try and play at the ball in that first half. It doesn't matter to them. Let you muck about in the backfield with 3 guys. Let you muck about on the sideline with 3 guys. That means that you've got my 11 guys against your 8 guys, and that is 2-die block there, 2-die block there, 2-die block there, 2-die block there with block, pounding on the damage. If you can cost them more than 1 player per touchdown, you are winning that Blood Bowl game. Okay? You don't even need to worry about the ball. If you are not worried about letting them score because you know you are going to be able to exact the damage that it costs them, you can effectively ignore that ball and just focus on the rest of the team, bring your numbers to bear and kick their face in. The second point here is screen defense. So while I said you can completely abandon the ball, you will need to pressure them to score, because if they run off with 3 gutter runners and they're loitering in your backfield while you're just merrily pounding their team, they're going to score on turn 8. You're not going to have enough time to score, and it's going to be a 1-0 draw, because even if they've only got 5 players left that second half, you ain't scoring 2 touchdowns. You're going to score 1 and it's going to be 1-1. So you do need to still apply pressure to the ball carriers. So while I'm all in on playing 11 players against 8, at some point you're going to need to bring some guys up. But if they've gone deep with light troops, so a couple of catchers or a couple of gutter runners, it's only going to take a blitzer and 2 linemen for you to come up there and pressure them. You still should by then have the numeric advantage. But the screen defense is so important in this. You don't necessarily need to go toe-to-toe to try and stop them from going through. What you do need to do is screen their team in half. This is the best way to do it, because you can apply all 11 of your players onto their non-ball contingent. Then you should be able to break off. And even when you're playing defense, the whole point of a screen is you kind of line your troops up so it guides their movement. Now if you screen and give them 1/4 of the pitch, they're going to go that way. That's fine, because then you can collapse in on that element. You can even try and turn over the ball. But I guess we should have said this at the beginning. The 2-1 grind, it's always lovely to try and stop your opponent from scoring, but you're not that fussed. You just want them to score turn 3. Turn 2, turn 3, turn 4 is fine. You want to let them score. It's weird, and if you're going for perfect defense or anything like that, that's fine. But you're going to win this game 2-1 if you let them score in 3 or 4 turns while you focus on smashing them. So applying that damage, getting rid of 1 or 2 of their players means that it snowballs, and the longer it snowballs, the more damage they are going to take for the second half. Screen defense, basically you can split their team in 2. You've got the bash advantage. Let those 3 guys run around with the ball while you just punch face, and then at some point filter back to apply the defense. Ideally what's going to happen though is you're going to remove 3 guys and you're just going to be pounding in on the rest of their team, and they are going to realise, especially if it's league, that they are going to lose the game. They're going to lose the league at this point, and then they're going to go for the score because you have got 6 2-die blocks lined up without even moving. At that point your opponent's like, if I don't score now, this is going to be horrific. But you need to do that screen so that you can filter off a couple of guys to pressure the ball carrier. Pressure the ball carrier while dominating the centre of the pitch and destroying their team. They are going to be forced to score just to reset the pitch. And the last thing, I guess, is the most important, is that you can hurt them, you can let them score. Those are 2 things that should be very easy for bash teams. But the cage grind offense is your huckleberry. Dwarves, Chaos, Norse, Nurgle, these teams cage. They cage up and they fight through. And the reason they do that is because they've got more strength. If you just put 11 of your dudes against 11 of their dudes, you would win 11 out of 11 times. So that cage grind offense is something that you will need to master. Dwarves can achieve it, their movement 4. You know what? 4 turns is 16 squares of movement. 3 turns is 12 squares of movement. That's a 1 go for it. So 3 turns, you can score with a single go for it using just your linemen. Your runners are movement 6. They're 2-turn touchdown able. Like, that's fine. They can score as quickly as any team. Asterix 1-turn touchdowns. We're not going for that. But 2 turns is enough for you to score. 4 turns is better. Why? Because you can take your time. You can apply your numerical advantage. You can apply your combat advantage. And you can make your opponent take risky plays. If you the only option you give to them is to leave 3 of your dudes in base contact with 3 of their dudes, or they have to take some dodges, to get a good blitz on the side of your cage, not even on your ball carrier. That's all you need to do. So applying good cage technique is going to mean that you can go up and score in a timely manner while still applying your combat advantage. See point 1, applying damage, screen on defense, and cage grind the heck out of the team. If you are dashing and charming, no, if you are a dash team and you're playing against a bash team, they're going to want that 2-1 grind. They're going to want to force you to score quickly so that they can then spend the next 14 turns just hurting you until that you can't even stop them from scoring. So if you're receiving the ball as an agility team, how the heck do you fight that? There are two ways to do this. One is to stall your offense. Okay, cede your line, that's fine. As in, give it away, concede that line. Those 3 linemen that you've deployed there are going to die, so just let your opponent have them, deploy back, create a new line of scrimmage, let your opponent move up, and then take your first turn again. Buy extra turns. Bash teams will be slower, but even dwarves can score in 2 turns, so there is no time limit that you can build that they won't get a shot at it. Even if you've somehow managed to hold them off and score on turn 8, which is an incredible feat if you are playing an agility team versus a bash team, a riot can still give them the 2 turns they need, and every turn you don't score, they're applying their combat strength to hurt you more and more. So the first option is to stall that ball maneuver. You know me, I like to break out, run through, and then go for the score. I like to do that all the time, even when I shouldn't, and that is probably quite a lot of the time. You want to wait a couple of turns before that breakout. It can be costly, and it can be risky, and it can lose you games. It can force that turnover. But if you grind and you don't score, or they break your serve and score, you're still going to get 2 turns to equalise in that half, and you're still going into that second half 1-all. You still have that chance to break the serve, and that's where we're going to flip this up. Okay, counterplay. I'm a Skaven team, I've got a great defense, I'm very competent at stopping my opponent, getting in there, taking those 2-die wrestles, popping the ball out, and then just sweet 2+ passing for the touchdown. Go up and score early. It's fine. If you are confident that you have a good if you're confident you've got a 50-50 chance of breaking your opponent's serve, you flip that 2-1 grind away. So you go up and you score in 2 turns, because then you're forcing your opponent to deploy, and yeah, they've got essentially 2 possessions to score, 1 for a draw and 2 for a touchdown. But you score quickly, they don't get any attacks on you. You take control, they get a couple of goes, maybe they take a dude out, you've still got 11 players. You are then playing 1 touchdown up with equal numbers, and that is the best position to be for defense. So if you're an agility team and they're making you receive, you can play this to your advantage. Score quickly, retain numbers, and then strike specifically when you need to. Use a stall defense, do not let them get attacks, and then blitz away the corners of their cage and disengage. Disengage, disengage, disengage. Force them. Force them. Whether you are up, this works for agility teams because you've got that sneaky agility to get in on the ball, but it also works for stunty teams because you've just got stunty ability. Snotlings are just the most frustrating team to play a 2-1 grind against, because those little snotlings cannot be stopped, and if you are caging up, it doesn't matter, because snotlings get 3 dice whether you're in the wild open field supported by everybody in the world, or whether you are a single snotling literally in a huddle of another team. It's still 3 dice. 3 dice with a reroll and a chance to just muck up the opponent. That's something they're going to take every time. So if you are Edge, if you are not Bash, and you receive the ball, do not be afraid to score quickly. It gives you the best chance at having more defensive players to turn over the ball. 1 turnover wins you the game, okay? 1 stall out draws you the game. Failing both will lose you the game. So the pressure is on you at that point, being 1-0 up. But if you think about it, all you got to do is grind them to a halt once. And the best they can do is a draw that's going to get you the ball back with potentially 1 or 2 turns in the second half to go for the 2-1 win. It's not all doom and gloom. So if you are Bash, kick away, smash their face, make them score, grind up the pitch, hurt them, score a touchdown in the first half, 1-1. Second half, receive the ball, grind up, smash face, do not give them any time, and just pile that pressure on. Go for that 2-1 touchdown. If you are agility and they make you receive the ball, score quickly. Play into the 2-1 grind. Or don't. You've got two choices. You can either try and score on turn 6 or on turn 2. The middle ground is the worst for you. Scoring on turn 2 saves your team. Scoring on turn 6, even if it costs you the team, forces them to try and score in 2 or 3 turns. You've got a good chance at stopping that, going for the draw. But scoring quickly gives you the best opportunity to have 2 good teams to defend with. But bear in mind, that is their plan. Flip the script, lose the kickoff. I think we've kind of talked this through, but if you're a bash team and you win the kickoff, kick away. If you are a bash team and you lose the kickoff, then this is probably the worst point of that kind of quadrant, isn't it? So dash, losing the kickoff, fine, score quickly, it's okay. Dash, receiving, kicking off, you've got a chance. But if you are a 2-1 grind focused team, Dwarves, Nurgle, that kind of stuff, you want to kick the ball, but you actually have to receive it. That puts you in a really interesting position because you've got 2 choices. One is to play into the 2-1 grind and go up and score. But the best one, if you receive on this first half, do not worry. You get the entire first half to set the tempo for the entire game. Okay, the 2-1 grind becomes a 1-0 grind if you receive and you are dominantly bashy. You can just focus on securing that ball and hurting the team. But be aware that your opponent will have a bigger team and therefore a better chance at defense in that first half. So receiving first for a bash team is the worst place to be. But what it does do is allows you to choose those opening blocks and gives you the best opportunity at just causing carnage in the beginning. But to do this right, you need to remove 3 or 4 players in that first half and still score on turn 8 to give them no chance. You score turn 8, turn 7 if you really need to, they get 2 or 3 turns to counter score. Therefore, you need to be 11 versus 8 to really have a good defense, and you need to seed them. You need to concede the front third of the half, the front third of your line. At that point, you deploy deeper back and you allow them to move up. That's going to cost them a turn. Then you've got a bigger portion of your team to go 1-to-1 with them, and you are bashy. The second half then should favour you in a numbers point of view. If you stall them out, you get 2 chances at stalling them out. If you're 1-0 up, that's 1 for a draw, 2 for victory, 0 for loss. If you've spent that first half maiming your opponent, you should at least have the strength advantage. So that wraps up the 2-1 grind. Hopefully that's confused the heck out of you and hasn't really helped. But you know what? Look at your games. Look at your results. A lot of them are going to be 2-1 grinds. And it's going to be playing into your opponent's plan. You must always have a plan when you are playing any kind of game at all. I know stunty coaches generally don't, but their plan is to not have a plan and just have fun. They always win. That's why stunty coaches are just always so happy. But if you are try-hard, if you're running your team against your opponent's team and victory is on the line, the 2-1 grind is going to be the way that most games play out. It's going to be first reception. Can that team score? How long do they leave for the second possession or the first possession of the alternative team? Can you stop them? Can they score? Who maims who? It's really interesting. It is basically the storyline of most Blood Bowl games, especially tight ones. Okay, if you've got an edge team against a nothing team, it's going to be racking up the touchdowns. And things can go horribly wrong, okay? But this is how you get blowout games. Edge team scores first. Edge team turns over, 2-0 going into the half. Edge team turns over again, 3-0. What do you even do? Well, you want to know that? Go watch the Skaven versus Halfling game we've got on our YouTube with me versus Ian Warhannam Hannam, because that is basically what happened. And you can pile on, but that is not a tactic. That is just playing for the outs at every opportunity and having them pay off. 2-1 grind is coming at you no matter what team you're running. You're going to play against an opponent who knows this, and it's a solid strategy. And if you look at Blood Bowl results, most of the time it's 1-0 or 2-1. That is because of this play sequence. Anyway guys, let me know in the comments thoughts on 2-1 grind, way to stop it, what more tactics you want to see. We're going to look at cage breaking in the future, and we're going to look at caging up because it kind of forms a massive part of Blood Bowl. Cage breaking is so important that we're going to need to take a couple of sessions to have a look at it. Anyway, I'm going to disappear and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the show even further, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Or come and join us in our Patreon, link below, where you get early access to our content and monthly competitions. See you later.